Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summit.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Hilliard Guess, and you guys are listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yes. Hilliard is in the house. We've actually been trying to do this for a while, but you're busy.
Yeah, I'm busy.
Ever since we went to 4 shows a week, goddamn, I am super fucking
Is that how
busy.
many you guys are doing?
4 Break It Down shows a week, 1 Popping the Bubble a week, and then I'm producing a couple other shows. That
I was
sounds
wondering why
fancy,
you guys just zoomed like way ahead of me on how many episodes you guys had.
Well, once I push the button, we'll be putting up 326 today.
Are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Wow.
Because, I moved down here, I've got access to people and
Right.
everything. But also, I've just gotten more comfortable with Zoom and like we talk about the quality, lowering the quality bar a little bit to get access to more people who are in the world.
Right.
So that has also
What do you mean?
helped.
What do you mean by that? Lowering the quality bar?
Because we can't be in the same room like this talking
Right.
with the same
I
kind of
see, I see.
mics. Right.
So you
now,
have to Skype and all that shit like that.
yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
We use Zoom for that.
Mhm.
Not this Zoom, but the conference
I've
Zoom.
done it. I've done it before.
And so it opens up the access to guests that you might not otherwise get.
Right.
But it does open you up to more variables, and quality is one of those
Yeah,
things.
because I was approached by a marketing guy who wants me to do like advertising. Like he wants me to advertise on the podcast that he's working with, that he advertises with, and he wants them to advertise on my show, so vice versa.
Yeah.
And which I think is a really good idea. I mean, they hit me up out the blue. They have decent numbers, you know what I mean? I was like, And they talk about films too, so I thought it actually would be a really good match. But they asked me, hey, would you consider having them on your show? And I was like, yeah, when are they going to be in LA? Where they're in like Philly or something.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, Skype. I'm like, no, bitch, I don't do
I don't do
it. It just
that.
doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't like it personally.
Well, I don't necessarily like it, but I'm willing to suffer the consequences to get access to these guys.
Right, understood.
Everybody's doing the content game right now, so I'm trying to open it up. And I definitely recognize that the show quality isn't always what I want it to be.
Right.
But my philosophy is sort of like, all right, that one's done, though. Here comes the next one.
Sure,
you ready?
Sure.
It's just
I guess my thing is if your audience isn't complaining, if the numbers aren't going down, if they're growing, then that's
numbers are going up.
You know what I mean? I think that's a good thing.
And it's not like I'm ignoring quality. It's just at some point the show has to be what it is. It's got to get swatted on the button out the door. You're always busy. How many projects are you currently working on right now?
Well, because we're online, and I'm going to say I'm only working on my show.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm kidding. But I do have a non-exclusive, so my feature scripts are out there. I have a movie that is I did a rewrite on, it's almost a page 1 rewrite. Mm-hmm. It's a little post-Civil War, 2 women, right after the war happens, all this crazy shit goes on. Yeah. And their whole families are killed on this huge compound, and they decide to learn how to fight back, and they go back and kill all these outlaws. So that was actually really fun. Doing kind of like a Thelma and Louise, but back then, and they got to sacrifice, their lives, like it's crazy. And they got to learn how to fight and shoot and blow things up, know. So it was a lot of fun.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What's your favorite time frame in history to write about? Like, what are you just like, yes, I get to dig into this?
I seem to be drawn to the past. I don't know what it is. There's something about the Civil War that I'm learning more and more, that I'm finding myself drawn to, and people are definitely interested in me taking a look at those things. And what I found is I try to give it a new spin. Mm-hmm. So even if it's slavery in a way, like for example what I did with my Black Wall Street movie that I wrote. I still try to make it so that it's not your typical white savior film, the blacks and the Negroes, if you want to call it, whatever, the coloreds, whatever they were called back then. I still make them, when they are by themselves, they are having a good time. Life is good if they could just only get out of their situation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I try to make them normal, happy, in love with their wives, in love with their husband, in love with their kids. I try to find ways to do that so that it's not all, oh, we just need to get out of here. Oh, we so sad. You know what I mean? I want to make it so that, you know, when people see the movies that I do from that perspective, that's my new perspective that I'm giving, you know, older films or historic films, is the twist on, yes, we were deprived, but there were times when we were singing for happiness.
Sure.
You know what I mean? There were times we were loving for happiness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that I do that. And I don't want just your typical, you know, white savior film. And I've rewritten 2 or 3 of them that had the white savior and totally changed it so that the black people save themselves or they just lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's just an example.
Yeah. You think, when I think about that theatric image of the black family living in a slave shack or whatever it is, or being broken apart as a family and everything, I never ever picture like the little boy who was just cracking the entire family up, you know, and not like,
And you know there were.
yeah, and I'm not talking like Eddie Murphy style, I'm talking like the kid who's just the normal 13-year-old kid who's saying he's on a roll, and the entire family's laughing, because those moments do happen.
Right, they just had to be quiet when the man came in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's what happens when. Sorry to interrupt you, by the way. But that's what happens when people who don't put themselves inside of those characters like that, or aren't part of that diaspora, they don't quite understand. So they only show. Well, we have to respect. You know how they were, and we can't show this. You know, because there's a lot of things where, for example, when I was doing the Black Wall Street research, there was one of the documentaries I was studying. They were interviewing like all these survivors, right? And one of them was this old, you know, white woman, of course, and she said something I've heard many, many times. You know, if you go back to Jim Crow, you interview almost any of the white people, they really believe this. They were like, well, I don't think that the blacks are all that, you know, of course they use the N-word, we're all that uncomfortable. We'd hear them out in the cornfields, in the cotton fields, you know, singing. Yeah. It's like, yes, they were singing because they were singing to each other to tell them things. There were codes.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? They were telling you how to cross the river and get over to the north. You know what I mean? It wasn't, oh, we're so happy. They made it sound happy, so you thought it didn't, but there were codes in those songs that they were telling you, be there at midnight so you can, you know, you can get there before the dogs come, so that you could, you know, it was all these different little, I don't want to call them tribal, but they, in essence, they were. Sure. You know, but there were little mysteries and gems hidden within the songs that they didn't know, but to them, they were like, oh, well, they were so happy. It's like, no, bitch, they were not.
Right, of course, right. And I got to be careful about how I say this. I don't want to say it wrong, but in life, there's misery. There always is. Has to be. And is it misery 20% more if you're who knows, right? But how much of that story do you have to own where there are good times? Like, yes, they're all in the field, and yes, there's a white oppressor who owns them or hires somebody who looks over them. But there has to be time when those guys are all sharing in a laugh. Absolutely. Or they're all singing a song together. You know, they all sing a spiritual together.
I don't know. I mean, I can't say that probably never happened. You know, some of those songs were so powerful that I couldn't imagine that the wranglers who were out there sitting on the horse with their horse whips never got caught up in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's fascinating. Yeah. See, that's making me want to see that.
Well, and because then that guy later on breaks that whip out, you know, they all sing whatever song, song, right. And then later on, you know, they have this moment because they are, in effect, a family. And then, you know, here comes the discipline for whatever reason. And it's just like this, wow, you know, and there has to be a time like when the guy who runs the house, he's like, yeah, let those guys sing down there. It's their time. Right. It's just, you know, there
as long as they turn in to work on time.
Yeah, there is some humanity in those monsters, you know, and I think that's almost more terrifying is even someone like Donald Trump has his tender moments, you know, and it's like to
maybe. But yeah,
no, you know, his kids love him and all that kind of stuff. Right. But it's easy to put things in a binary thing where Nazis are all bad. Right. And of course, the Nazi idea is bad, but they're still people. Right. You know, they're still people that don't want to have to go down this. Anyhow, stories can be so fascinating. It's one of the things I love about
But that's why it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, it's like, what perspective do you show? You know, and it's a matter of, you could be starting on the worst Nazi ever, but you go to the right, and his right-hand man might be somebody who's in love with some beautiful, you know, Jewish woman who lives over in France. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a secret.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's all about who you decide to go home with, and what's your way in and what's your story.
Right.
You know, so that's what's fascinating about writing stories. And like, you hear stories about like, and you know, you're in the middle of writing a story or two yourself.
Yeah.
And there's so many war stories.
Yeah.
But your perspective on it, because you were there,
Yeah.
and you know, if you just go to the left a little bit, it's going to be completely different than what they did in Full Metal Jacket. It's going to be different what they did in such and such. You know what I mean? And that's your superpower.
Yeah.
That people don't realize that you have. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to understand. You've seen many spy movies.
Sure.
But they're not going to see it from your perspective of somebody who's like, our system doesn't work. Yeah. And here's why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's
Totally.
that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That guy is different, because now he's your anti-hero. He's your, you know, he's against the system, but he's for the system because he works for the system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just trying to change it for the better, but he's getting knocked down all the time about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm already pitching your own fucking project. But, you know, but that's using that as an example.
I was going to so one of the stories that I'm trying to lay out in my head, and I'm getting some help doing it, but you start by telling the story from the Arab dude's point of view.
Okay.
And, you know, you can instantly empathize that is just a fucked up world that he lives in, and we have a big piece of that blame.
Right.
And then you take that, and I'm using my hands, one hand's facing down, one hand's facing up, and you take like the American side, and you end up flipping the stories and crossing them so that like you've got a double anti-hero kind of switchover.
And they kind of parallel in their own ways.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you
what?
realize, like, you know, the U.S. side ends up, how do they get to the point where they make the same decision to do these horrible things, like put someone on a bus and have them blow themselves up, like, and then just show that, I don't know, just that swirl together,
the
where
culture,
they're really, yeah, exactly,
right.
And it's I'm not very good at explaining it, but in my head it makes sense, you know. But those perspectives matter,
right.
And seeing what it means to be an Iraqi person that has no future, and has someone coming out randomly from thousands of miles away and eliminating people that you know. Even if that dude was a dick, even if Muhammad was a fucking asshole and you hated him and he owed you money, you know, someone else comes and turns his light out, you know, at some point you're like, fuck all this. I have no control over anything.
Right.
And then they just turn the whole table over, you know?
But what's funny is, I had a vision as soon as you said that. We were talking in the writer's room the other day, and I was talking with one of the assistants about, you know, about things that you have in the room that separate you, or what you're good or not good at, or what you need to grow at. And I was talking about how, and he noticed it when I said it. I said, I see moments. You know, you can tell me a story and I can pitch you the whole story easily. But in a situation where we're dealing with a consistent, serialized situation, moments come to me. You know what I mean? And I keep seeing them, and they're usually something that's like really, really thought of, but it's really like, and it's usually character based. It's usually from the heart. Usually something in there that everybody can grab. And he was like, "Wow, yeah, I could see that." And he started talking about these different moments that I've pitched, and he was like, "Man, and they usually make it to the board, right?" And where I'm going with that is, like, as soon as you started talking about starting on the Muslim guy, or whatever you call them, forgive me, I immediately started picturing the kids. Here's the interesting thing. You're in the middle of a battle zone, and the kids are still out there playing soccer.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And that takes us back to what you and I were talking about with the slave movies or the post-Civil War movies. The kids were still playing.
Yeah.
They still were playing jokes on each other because they have that kid energy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're burning in. They're full of anxiety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense. Actually, a real life memory was, we're getting ready to leave the camp, and so there's 4 Humvees are all up armored, and there's this whole like code lingo you do as you're walking out. Like you basically have to say, we all have our weapons. Everybody's got a round in the chamber. We've got these various countermeasures, and it's just a real fast code, kind of like singing in the field. And then the whole thing stops because one of the key codes was not announced. So like you're saying, like, we're all wearing black, we all have shoes, we all have headbands, we all have our armor. Okay, let's go. And then someone's like, wait, hold on.
Right.
I don't have my and it's not about uniform, but it's the systems. And so I'm struck by, here we are in this combat patrol. We're dead stop because there's a piece of electronics that's not working right and not protecting us.
You guys are out in the field.
Right, and we're just out the gate. So we're literally picture a dirt road kind of raised up, and we're about to drive into the city. So it's 4 Humvees, spaced apart. And it's like, we're amber jamming, we're this, it's like, it's almost like ordering from Waffle House when you order like hash browns, roasted, toasted, covered, smothered, and, whatever, syruped. But it's like that. That's what you're doing. You're telling the group the order. And so we're full stop. We can't go forward because it's too dangerous because we're having war, right? And I look out my window. My window, by the way, is like a foot by a foot, and it's like 4 inches thick. It's ballistic window, right? So there's not much window there. It's almost like a submarine. I look out.
Boy, that's claustrophobic.
Yeah. And the door's 400 pounds. So once it starts coming, it's not stopping. It's going to, so when you go to push it out, you really have to push. There's a mom and a daughter just walking right next to us, parallel down that little path. So here we are, like, oh, shit. We got to get this fixed before we go any further because we're in harm's way. And if we don't tend to this, someone's potentially going to get hurt. And then 5 feet from the door are a mom and a daughter just walking down the road. It's as easy as can be.
Right.
And so it's just
and they're not afraid of you.
No. And their world is totally different. Even in that bubble, when we're sharing the same immediate space, it's a completely different thing. Now, we're not necessarily scared of an imminent attack, but we won't go any further. Right. To tempt that out, and that's just their world.
So does that make you guys, in a situation like that, do you stop and let whoever go back and get whatever? Does everybody go back until you guys are all ready? What do you do?
In that case, you've got enough weapons that you can kind of just be prickly, and no one's going to come and approach you. But what we don't want to drive up is somebody's planned ambush. So no one's going to ambush us right there because it's just too close. Right. And so in that case, if I remember correctly, we just had to like reset something, and it takes 5-10 minutes to get everything reset. And it's like, does it come back on? But if not, the whole patrol will turn around and go back in. And then there's devices that you plug in to make, because there's countermeasures for so you can't make a phone call anywhere near us because we don't want someone calling somebody up and having the bomb blow.
Oh, really?
Like the bombs can be phone activated.
Oh, right.
So it's all about all these different systems. Anyhow, it's just such a different immediate space. The other one I think about is just like, I call it the, I'm not the only one here moment, right? Like, my girlfriend, she's walking down the street and all of a sudden like a bee flies into her hair. And so she's throwing her hair around like a supermodel and swinging her arms. And I look at her and I'm like, you're not the only one here right now. And then like realize, oh yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
I look like a crazy person. So, like when you're singing in the car, you're having a great time rocking out and you look to your left, you're like, oh shit, that's right. I'm not the only one here.
I was just thinking about this today because, I'm driving in my Torino and I'm blasting my reggae music and shit, right? And every stop sign or stoplight I get to, somebody high-fives me, gives me a thumb, you know what I mean, yells, Starsky and Hutch, whatever the fuck, right? Yeah. And that makes me feel like a superhero. Yeah. So whenever my car's in the shop, I feel miserable, right? Yeah. And so literally one of my favorite things that I love to see somebody sitting in the car singing. Yeah. I just love it. It lights me up. It's like seeing somebody, like, for instance, I watch a lot of, and people mock me all the time, my writer friends, why do you watch that shit? I love, like, American Idol and all that shit, and, The Voice. I love happy tears. And somebody, when they succeed and they win, or they won that night, or they got standing ovation from the judges, I know that feeling. Yeah. So that just constantly, I'm driving for that happy tears moment. There's nothing better than to me. So I get the same feeling with happy tears as I do turning to the left and seeing somebody singing from the top of their lungs in their car to Depeche Mode or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Right. So,
I love it. And I love that you collect joy like that. That's how you probably heard me talking about this. Like, anytime you can find joy and go, there it is, I've experienced it, when was the last time you had it, you can collect it. Because it's easy to collect pain and terror and everything else. But, joy is such an important thing. And, so here's my guilty pleasure on TV. I watched that, I don't know if they're going to do it anymore, but that designing show, like when they make clothes and stuff. The one with
Project Runway?
Yes, Project Runway.
I love Project Runway.
I love that show because, well, one, you've got these people, and they do a great job of telling the story. Like the one girl from Puerto Rico, folks are in the hurricane, and she's like going to the final show. And I Like, that's just wonderful. But also just the stress. You know, you have to do this in 12 hours.
In a day.
In a day.
Right.
That whole outfit. And then you're like, look at these outfits.
Right.
And some people get it right. Some people don't get it so right. But I just love all of that. And I like it. I don't like it so much when they're catty. Granted, that's entertaining and all. But I love it when they really come together, you know, and they have those moments. Because that's really more. They're to grow.
But see, that's why one of my favorite shows is MasterChef Junior.
Oh,
because the kids,
Yeah.
they rally around each other. There's no bad mouthing each other or nothing. They're just like, you know how kids are today.
Yeah.
If you would have shot this 20 years ago, they would have been dogging each other. You know what I mean? But today, the kids are like, you know, hugging each other, and wishing each other luck and speed up. You can do it.
Yeah.
You know, there's all that rallying behind each other. But to me, that's needed today.
Yeah.
You know, we grew up and we always joke about it on our show, is that we grew up, you know, during the time when there was lead in the water and lead in the gas and all that other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they don't have that now. So, you know what I mean? There was something wrong with us back then.
We were all poisoned by lead. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, that's funny. I also enjoy the Project Runway Junior when they do the junior kids because
same thing. They're pretty nice to each other, right?
Yeah, Tim Gunn isn't like super hard on anybody, but he's even more tender with the kids, you know. And I just love the heck out of Tim Gunn too. How can you not like that?
He's
guy?
amazing.
He makes me laugh. All right, so let's change gears. What do you want to talk about?
Well, let me ask you, what's going on with your writing? You know, what have you been learning? You know, maybe we could get into that a little bit.
Well, so the God's honest truth is that since we upped the production number, my time to do other things has been, I'd had to cut things back, so I've not been writing as much. I have been working on an outline, and so my idea is, because I know I can do this, I can talk and record, so my idea is to record, you know, the bulk of a book, put it into written word, and then...
So you're writing a book instead of the script?
I think I'm writing both simultaneously, but I work on... I learned this from you a little bit, actually. I work on whichever one I can get the work in on that moment. So instead of being blocked, where can I put work in? And so, you know, the outline's pretty much done, but it's always, you know, I'm always tinkering with it and everything and trying to break it into small pieces. And I've recorded a bunch of it in an effort to learn what that's like. So none of it's really any good yet, but I'm working on that process.
But you got your ideas out.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the biggest thing that we've been talking about for years. You know, I've known you for years now, and you've been talking about doing this. And so here you are now. Now you have an outline. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you're ahead of where you were a year ago.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So to me, that's the first step in being a writer that I talk to young writers or anybody who's starting to be a writer or a baby writer, whatever, is there's nothing you can do but be in control of yourself. And being in control of yourself, it takes 10 minutes a day. Yeah. You know, and you know, could you write every day, you know, whether it be writing something about the podcast, whether it be one of your blogs that you do. Yeah. All that 10 minutes can get you'd be amazed how much shit you can get done in 10 minutes. Yeah. So I always teach everybody, you know, I know you're busy, but if just giving yourself 10 minutes, you'd be surprised. Yeah. Because now you're dedicating yourself to that 10 minutes. Yeah. So nothing gets in the way, no phone calls, no nothing. Your whatever is off, you know? Yeah. And then next thing you know, you're like, okay, I need 20. Mm-hmm. And you start adding to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you can easily write 500 words on a Facebook rant. Right. Well, why am I giving that away? Why put it into that instead of something else? Actually, I just interviewed over on Sunset a guy named Stuart Rogers, and he lives this incredible life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he writes, but he's gotten to the point where, and you must be similar with this. He's like, every morning I get up, I do this, and then I write, and I knock out a 750-word article for the people I write for, and I do it in about 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, I believe that. It's a muscle.
Right, yeah, totally. And he's in shape, and it's tacit. There are no type. It's just bam, 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 bam. And he's got the idea, and he just delivers it. But those 10 minutes, those 20 minutes turn into a bigger, stronger muscle in that window, for sure. Right. And he's also taught himself... See, that's the thing. Like everybody's like, man, you know, because they hear me say, you know, you need to be working on your speed, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And they misunderstand. What I'm trying to explain to them or trying to tell them to do is... Yes, there are certain fields that you write in that you do have to have a certain amount of speed. Right. You know, in television, for example, on my show, there's sometimes, well, on any show, I'll just say that. So on any show, for the most part,
especially as you get closer to production, you start to realize, oh shit, in episode 3, we realized that this particular scene isn't going to work because we weren't able to build such a set. Or, you know, we only have the actor for 3 days instead of 5, like we thought, right? Yeah. So you got to go back and revamp things. Well, what also happens is they go, okay, that means we're going to move episode 4 to the episode 3 spot and move episode 3 to the 4 spot. You're writing episode 4, so I need you to write episode 4 now. Yeah. I need it by Friday, and today's Wednesday. But they expect you to be able to do shit like that. Sure. So that's the things that I'm trying to teach people is to prep yourself for those things that come about, you know, because they do happen. And there's nothing you can do better than to please your showrunners with a great first draft of whatever it is, that whether it's the outline, you know, the story area, which is like basically a page or two of here's the whole story, or, you know, the actual script. You know, but if you could turn that shit in fast and give it to them, and it's interesting and intriguing and compelling, then you are helping them. You know what I mean? And that's what your job is to do. So when I'm encouraging writers to work on their speed in any field that they're in, that's partly why. It's just like somebody might say, hey, you know, we're working on this great story about, you know, U.S. spies, you know, but, you know, the article's going out tomorrow. It happens, you know what I mean? And you can't be like, oh, I need a week. You got to be ready to do that shit now. You just stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to go Humpty Hump on them. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, and like when I talked about when I first came in, you were given an opportunity, like, I've already got that written. Right. And I'm now just going to tweak what I have because I'm always in the workshop. Right. I've got that right here. Right. Pull it out, and the idea is already built out. And that in the creative world, that's something that you're just always doing it. Like when I talk to people about podcasts, and I love talking to them about it, but I break it down to just basic things. Like it's great to think that you're interesting, right? But that don't mean shit because no one gives a fuck what you have to say. Right. They will care that you can put a show out when you say it's going to go out all the time, over and over again. That seems easy, but you put a show out. Right. It's hard. Right. And some days, and I drop an episode pretty much every week. Yeah. The 365 days a year. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll just, you know, I'll block your, I was about to say block shoot them, but I'll block tape them, you know, back to back. I'll do 2 or 3 of them at a time. And, you know, even if they don't necessarily go, because we might have talked about some shit that happened 2 weeks ago, I'd still put it out that way because I know my time. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I've learned from myself that when I go on break, you start to lose people. I don't have time to try to get them back again. So I just keep it on a regular rotation. It just comes out every week. You know? Yeah. One of the questions I get a lot is, how do you get these wonderful guests? Like, well, first thing is I ask, but I keep asking too. Right. Like, you don't get Danny Trejo to show up because you say, hey, Danny, do my show. Right. Now, he'll tell you yes, but he doesn't mean yes. He means, you know, yeah, sure. Yeah, he's a busy guy. Yeah, he's a busy guy. Right. And so, like, and we haven't even got him yet, but everybody has said yes. He needs a project. We need a time when, you know, like, so we've gotten further down the trail, but I've asked 25 times. Did you go to his new donut store he has right there? Not the donuts. I've been to the around the corner. Place. Oh, yeah. I'll have to check it out. Santa Monica and Highland. Nice. Yeah, you'll see it's like Danny Trejo's Donuts or some shit whatever. Like that. You know, I'm all about it. I love support that guy. But that's the whole thing, is like whatever it is, whatever thing you want to do, you want to become a writer, there are 50 tasks around becoming a writer that you have to master. Right. And then when you master those, now you're a baby writer who maybe can be counted up for something. Is that a bitch? You're like, I'm 50 years old. I don't know how. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you got to master 50 more things around those things until like you're like, that stuff, that's just what I do. Right. And I've learned that a lot, especially with the podcast world. Like, the ability to say this show will come out and have everybody have no doubt about it. That's just a step. Then you have to get higher. And here's the cool thing. What I appreciate, it's not, damn it, Pete, how come you haven't written your script? Yeah. Right? It's, okay, last time we talked, you didn't even have the outline. Yeah. You feel me? So to me, you have progressed. Yes. So you need to be patting yourself on the back going, okay, that's a step. Yeah. Feel me? I didn't have that before. Yeah. Now I have this ammunition. I still need to tweak it and make it better and all that shit, but now it's on the page. I know what my story is. You know? I know where I'm going. Yeah. So I could take this outline and put it into a script, Right. Or I could take this outline and put it into my book and just expand on it, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. So you at least have that. What you have to keep patting yourself on the back for and understanding is if you are still writing your articles and all that, you are still writing.
Yeah.
It's a side of a muscle that you have expertly practiced to do. Because even that, you have to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
You only have 1,000 words or whatever it is to figure it out. So how do you do that and condense a whole story and make it make sense? Within that's not very much. I'm just using it as an example. You know what I mean? So remember that muscle alone is something you have to master. Yeah. But I guarantee you, and here's what I want you to appreciate, learning how to do that is going to help you to be able to do this.
The other thing I've learned too is just to back off on all of the things. Mm-hmm. Just to say, I don't have time for these things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to. I should play my guitar more. I love it. I enjoy it. It relaxes me. But that is not something I can engage in right now because I need to get these shows out to create this other thing I'm going to create. The things I want to do and the things that I will do. Like I've hit the limits of my bandwidth. Okay. And so within that, I can reorder those things inside my bandwidth. But
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What's your schedule? Like what time are you getting up in the morning? What's your routine?
Let's say I get up on average at 6 in the morning. Okay. I roll out of bed, and then I get to work on catching up on whatever emails and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's usually the first thing I do. Okay. And then after that, I have editing to do. It's quiet, and so I'll usually put in however much editing time. If the show's not done, I edit it all in that morning. But since there's 5 shows a week, I'm always editing.
There's one or two things that I hear that are missing already.
All right, let me hear it.
You're not doing nothing for yourself at all.
I wouldn't say that.
But in a sense of, just hear me out.
Yeah.
In a sense of your health.
Yeah.
Where are you taking care of yourself? Where are you getting up and taking the dog for a walk just to get your brain?
Yeah, that happens.
No, but hear me out because you didn't mention that.
Right.
So I'm only telling you what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing for yourself to just go, whew, okay, now I feel good. You know what I mean? Like most people get up, they go for a walk, they go to the gym, they do, something to get the adrenaline going. To get your brain in that thing. They do yoga, whatever the hell it is, just to get your mind.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
To get your brain in that thing. They do yoga, whatever the hell it is, just to get your mind clear of the bullshit.
Yeah.
And sometimes the bullshit is when you sleep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those things are built in.
Right.
I can always do better at those things, but my girl. So she gets up a little later than me. So that first hour or two is my time to get in whatever I want to get in. And then typically we'll go out and do a morning walk.
Okay.
Because if we go in the evening, we don't always do it.
Right.
So there is a lot of that time. The other thing is every 45 to 90 minutes, I make myself get up and just do something else.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm not just in front of the computer the whole day just hammering away.
That's important.
Yeah, so some of that stuff's built in. Again, I can always improve what's there, but that stuff's there. I'm pretty productive, but I also don't shut down until, I stay up late like you do. I'm up.
I don't stay up late anymore.
Oh, you don't anymore?
Not since I've been on the show. I've been going to sleep. I get ready for bed at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm in the bed by 10:30, 10:45.
I try to stop working at 10.
Yeah.
If I'm still working at 10, it's because I've got something I didn't get done earlier, or I took 2 hours to do something else in the day.
Yeah, but just be aware that it's a lot of time sitting in front of the computer.
Yeah.
And how do you manage that so that you have time for yourself, have time for your girl, have time for your daughter, all those things you have to figure out. You have to have date night. You have to have things for yourself. And when I say that, I always tell them people money's funny. I was like, the park ain't gonna cost no money. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff, you can make a sandwich at the house and take her for a little picnic. There's things you can do to still keep the romance in there, to keep it cute or whatever. Let me give you an example. I was talking with some of the writer's assistants about this other because they're always, on Tinder or whatever, looking for some cute girl or some guy, whatever. And I was telling them about how Scott and I have been together for, almost 17 years. And like, wow, how did you guys stay together so long? And I was like, because we communicate. We don't go to bed without each other. Mm-hmm. We don't, there's like, if he's out of town, we always call at 11 o'clock. We call each other right before bed. Yeah. Whatever it is, we have a little thing that we do where we connect. When I'm busy like this, it's like, okay, I'm off on Sunday. We're not taping, so we're doing something. It could be something as simple as us taking my car, going for a ride to Ventura, having lunch, and driving back.
Sure.
It could be simple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you find the time to keep it fresh, and that keeps my mind not worrying about them, so that when I'm gone all the time and I'm doing my shit, I don't feel guilty because I know on Sunday or whatever the time is that you work out, you've planned to be their special moment for them.
Yeah.
And you're not like this on your phone all the time. You know what I mean? You go, okay, I'm shutting off for a couple hours. Yeah. It ain't going to kill me.
Ain't going to kill me.
It's not. You think it is.
Oh, I know.
But it's not.
I get mad with that for sure.
Right.
We actually, because of life, sometimes you can't always do it. But she always tries to bring opportunities for us to just go do something. Like it was last night, I think Gregory Porter was at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay.
And he's just a wonderful, beautiful singer. He's just a huge mountain of a man. He's play football.
Okay.
But he sings jazz like Nat King Cole. And just fantastic. So I'm like, we could go see this and it would be like $50 at the Hollywood Bowl. Right. I mean, it's a big time investment, but that's part of it.
Driving all the way from where you guys live too.
But, that's fine. Mm-hmm. So we were trying to go to Erasure. We still may go next week because it's her birthday week and everything. So, but we try to find those things. But you're right. It's easy to, all of a sudden, it's been 2 months since you've done anything.
Right. It happens really. You ain't even been with her 2 years yet. You know what I mean? So imagine how that happens. You have to.
Over time, yeah.
And you have to communicate that. You have to have those talks like I know when Scott's in the middle of selling a bunch of houses or real estate or whatever, he's like super stressed, he's a little snippy. Yeah. And I tend to get like that when I'm busy, especially when I'm producing something. I get really snippy.
Sure.
It's because I'm used to being in charge and running shit.
Yeah.
So, I got 30, 40 people hitting me, asking me questions all the time, because I'm the one making it smooth. So I get home, I'm like, babe, can you grab that thing? He's like, no. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot. You know what I mean? I'm so used to having, people do shit like that that I forget that you have to turn it off. So it's the same thing. You have to remember to, but luckily I have somebody who's in my life who's like, you were not on the set right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? You cook. Yeah. You're the one who cooks.
The other side of that is you can also take that moment to go, I'm going to do something nice for Scott. And you get up and you go, just bring, what can I get for you? And those kind of things. Right. I want to totally change gears. And I want to ask you, so she and I watch a lot of BBC type.
Okay, love those.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The acting is, I'm going to say this. I think the acting in general is at a higher grade.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm a layman when it comes to this stuff.
Why do you think they're getting all our roles?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, a lot of American actors would disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to it to an extent.
Yeah, and I was trying to put my finger on it because I can't quite do it, but we watched the Durrells in Corfu. I don't know if you watched that, but it's just this wonderful story. And we watched another one called Broadchurch.
I love Broadchurch.
So the acting in that show, top to bottom, character for character, is just excellent. I mean, the writing is solid, but I think the acting, there's a moment where...
And it's just a small little town. It's just simple.
Yeah.
Nothing really big happens, but it's all like suspense.
Yeah,
you know
it's connected.
I mean? Right.
And I enjoyed Longmire, but I kind of put them in the same thing where all that bad shit shouldn't happen in Longmire. But instead of Longmire doing what they did in Broadchurch, they kept ramping it up and ramping it up, and it got more ridiculous. Right. And I still enjoyed it, but they started to lose me as we are in northwestern Wyoming.
Right.
Like there's just way too much murder and mayhem going on up here. Whereas Broadchurch would have one murder,
but a lot of entire season and shit, right? Yeah,
and a lot of intrigue around that, like oh, you're banging that, and so. But there was a moment in I think the first season when the family loses the boy and everything. That doesn't ruin it for anybody. But they're all sitting on the couch, and there's a big reveal, and there's like 5 of them on the couch, and it's like the Simpsons picture. They're all sitting there, and all 5 of them, all 5 of them portrayed an emotion, but it was like each one fired different emotions, like 3 different emotions, and you could see it, whichever one you looked at, all in an instant. And they didn't all show the same thing. Yes, there was shock, and maybe they each showed shock, but at a different moment.
Right.
And I was just like, God damn, I wanted it back. And I'm like, did I see that? And I did. It wasn't just someone talking. You could see just very subtle facial acting. I was like, it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know we have the capability of doing that, but do we just not demand that from our TV shows?
I think that, and I have never done a BBC show. I have a show that I want to do that's a BBC show that takes place, in London and all that shit. But my understanding, and I actually have somebody I could talk to about this. Tom Robert Smith, he's the one who did the Gian Versace one. Yeah. And I interviewed him for the Writers Guild podcast. I'm supposed to interview him on my show too. My understanding is a lot of those actors come from theater because that's what's big there. They may or may not have more rehearsal time than we do. I don't know. Because, the government usually pays for a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So they probably have more time. In American cinema and television, you're shooting things in 6 to 10 days, sometimes maybe 14 on a really big show, but you're just moving so fast. You just don't have the time or the real estate, to really. You have to depend on the actors being at that level. Yeah. And the directors don't have a lot of time to really spend with you talking about a moment or, this is what's going on. They're shooting and, they're just moving. It's a machine. Yeah. They're just moving and they're just hoping the actors get this moment. They have a little talk and then they action. You know what I mean? Yeah. They block it. They organize it. They figure out what's what. And then they do it 3 or 4 times and they move on. Yeah. There's a few shows that do 20 takes, but very rarely. Very rarely, if it's a Lynch, maybe. The rest of them are like, the producers are looking at you and, dude, no, you got one more. That's it.
You're spending my money now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think there's more at stake probably, and ours are a lot more expensive. They do, even though Broadchurch has, done 2 or 3 seasons, it's pretty rare for the British shows to do that long. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different reasons. I'm sure I'm not giving you the correct things, but these are just my off the top.
Yeah, well, I can see that the practice thing probably
the rehearsal is important.
And then also, you're right, they're not bound to a, hey, this is a hit serial. Right. Let's just keep this thing cranking for 12 seasons and make other ones, CSI this, CSI that. Not to knock that form. It certainly works, but there are sacrifices in both areas.
But see, even with shows like that, there's a sacrifice. You can get caught up in a procedural world. You can work on those shows and make a ton of money because they're a huge machine, money-making machine. Yeah. You can work your way up as a producer on the shows and never have to work again. Just because so many residuals and they show it all the time and, it's network, it's prime time, it's all the top things. Where you lose yourself if you're working on a show like those, and I love those shows. My husband's favorite shows. But where you can lose yourself is it doesn't go character deep. The structure is the same every time. You always know if you watch NCIS this or NOLA, if you watch NCIS LA, whatever the fuck it is, you can see by Act 3 it's going to be a big shootout. You know what I mean? It's always LL Cool J and what's his name? They're going to survive. It's the same formula every single time. Right. But that whole South and Midwest is their audience, and that's the biggest part of our, we live here in California. It's one of the biggest states and with the biggest, but those other places are killing us with numbers and all the other stuff. So that's their money. That's why they can spin off and be in Miami and be in New York and be in, LA. And
it's funny, and this is not in any way to mock Ice-T because I have tremendous respect for him. But I think he's a good example of that. He's on Law and Order SVU, and he gets a line every show, and quite often it's this oh yeah, I know a guy named Cracker Jack. I'll talk to him. And then that's it. That's his line when they all powwow. And then he goes out. And maybe he gets another little scene where he goes and talks to Cracker Jack. Right. But that's it. Right. And then he's not, because it's not his show. He's an additional player.
Yeah, but he probably gets $500,000 a week for that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. Right. But it's just, it's funny how you can be so, anybody could do what he does and accomplish the mission of saying the lines.
Right.
But you got to believe it. And I don't know that I necessarily believe it when Ice Cube does it or Ice-T does it, but he does do it well.
But he's a personality.
Yeah.
And you've bought into the personality now. And you have to remember that this town is full of loyalty. And this town, even though that's in New York, you know, the guys are still here even though they're in New York.
Right.
So the guy who created that show and runs the show, I've heard him talk about Ice-T about this. The only reason why I'm talking about this. And he talks about how Ice-T was the first, like, music celebrity, I believe, that I'm paraphrasing all this, that he worked with that didn't, like, show up with an entourage. He's not all fancy on the set. He just shows up. He's got his little car.
Yeah.
You know, he shows up. He's by himself.
Yeah.
You know, since day one, you know, and he knows his lines. He's always off book, you know, and he's like, why would I fire him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's easy to work with. Everybody loves him.
Yeah.
You know, he shows up on time. He leaves. He's back on time. He's not drunk when he gets there. He's like, why would I fire him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's all about loyalty. You know what I mean? So if you have those things and those elements in your show, why would you ever need to let them go? But as you watch, all the other leads have left and, you know, spinned around. He stays the same, you know, so why would he ever leave the show? You know what I mean? He can make $500,000 a week. I'm spitballing.
Yeah, right.
You know,
but it's going to be somewhere near that.
And have 8 to 10 lines a week and never have to work again.
Right.
You
Or just do whatever other things he wants. You know, like, let me go do this work, get this done. This takes me this much time. And the rest of the year, I can go tour with my heavy metal band that he has.
Right.
And not worry about it. Yeah. It's a good position to be in.
But where I was going with the British thing, I don't mean to interrupt you, was one of the things that happens. So say you become a writer on one of those procedural shows. Yes, you make a fortune, but now you come back to Hollywood and you're like, hey, I'd love to write on Better Call Saul. And they're like, you're the procedural guy. Because they don't, honestly, a lot of writers don't have a lot of respect for those shows because there's like every time I sit and watch my husband watch it 5 times in the show, I'll say the line with them, and he'll look at me like, "How did you know?" I was like, "Come on, that was the biggest cliched line. I saw it coming a mile away." Whereas other shows, you're like, "Wow, look how he twisted that around. Look how smart that was. Look how clever that." It's like they don't have to take the time to not be on the nose.
Yeah.
They have to make it clear, like, well, we found that, you know, Pete Turner was lying on the ground at such and such a set time. Well, where did you see Pete Turner? Oh, I saw Pete Turner. Whatever. Nobody fucking talks like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but they can get away with that shit on a real show. You know, they would kill you for that.
They would. It's just like whenever I see spy stuff and they do a bona fides, they're like, the hawk flies on Wednesday. No one says that shit. A bona fide says nothing. If you do it right, only you and I know. So I'll come up and I'll see you at the Starbucks and I'll say, hey, I'll take an Americano with cream. You know what? No cream. And you'll go, okay, that's like the first part of it.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Totally normal. And then you kick it back across to me to the counter. And the reason why we talk to you
is code.
It's code. And you'll say, oh, no. You know, like, why don't you let me do it how I do it? And I'll throw the cream in like this. And then I'll say, yeah, okay, great. So that means the meeting's on or the bona fides is established.
Okay, right.
But it's never some like, let me get to the tall horn. Like, that's stupid. Because if someone over, the whole point is if someone over here is they don't know, you know. But
But see, that's why, and you have to remember that because you are a part of that world. You understand what everything is. When you are an executive, you're going, how can the audience know this?
Right.
You know, unless we're showing at the same time that such and such just came from doing whatever with the hawk, we're not going to know that they're talking in code that's about whatever.
Right, yeah.
But you know, if somebody sets up that, I'll go to my guy at the coffee shop, he'll know what to do. Yeah. Wink, wink. Then we'll know what you see. You have to plant.
No, absolutely.
You have to plant all that information.
The procedural. Yeah. Right. I always laughed at like the formulaic nature of all these shows, especially when you've seen as much TV as we all did growing up. Like Chips. Every episode starts off on the freeway and there's a huge accident and the same stunt all the time. You know. It may be like 5 different stunts, but they wrote a car is going to flip over possibly, you know, and then the guy's going to get away, and then in Act 3 they catch him, and then there's a lesson, and then they do the epilogue, cool like John and Ponch on jet skis or whatever, with the stop action.
Or like my favorite show when I was a kid, one of my favorite shows in the 80s was Dukes of Hazzard,
Yeah.
And same thing, how many times can Roscoe Pico and them chase them?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's
but
gonna
yet,
crash.
every week,
Yeah.
there's some chase, and all of a sudden, for some reason, some weird guys in suits show up in their freaking area, and they have to. Why would they come to that little town? You know what I mean? But it's formula.
And the same thing with all of like the sitcoms. At some point you've seen all the jokes,
right?
And so I can't watch. I know Big Bang Theory is a big hit. I can't watch it because I'm just like, it's just dumb. It's just the same. It's like I've seen every episode of Cheers. I've seen every episode of The Simpsons.
Right. Seinfeld.
Mr.
But I can watch Seinfeld over and over. It doesn't bother me. I still laugh.
There's a cleverness though in a Seinfeld that didn't exist before that. It was really unique.
Yeah, I can watch Sanford and Son. I can watch All in the Family. Like all those old shows, I can watch over and over. They don't bother me. Lucy. I still see Lucy's I have never seen. I'm like, when did I not see that show?
Right.
Yeah, it's a trip.
Lucy, man, that's way back. I watched The Aviator last night.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah, the movie. Yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio was on it?
Yeah. And he does Howard Hughes, and it's just incredible. Like that, and a lot of that stuff happened right here on this hunk of land right here, because we're actually on the lot. But making those movies back then, and how similar. Olivia de Havilland is still alive. She's over 100 years old.
Really?
And she's one of the she's from that era, and she's still around. So it's neat to see that, especially sitting here at the lot now that I'm thinking about it. All of those story things that have come along. Have we gotten better at movie craft, do you think?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, some people would disagree, but I think it's probably more technical stuff because we're shooting on digital and not necessarily on film. I mean, some people still do, the Tarantinos, the Lynches, and, some of those other people prefer to still shoot on film. I think it's probably more technical. I think we're a lot more savvy about the style and the way we write.
Yeah.
I think it's a little more clever. It's not on the nose. It's a little more staccato. It's got all those things, but, you still can't not watch The Godfather and see just how genius, from the way the camera's sitting there to the acting to, to the dialogue itself. You still have movies that if you're going to be a filmmaker or writer, you have to watch, you have to have read the script to see what it looks like to get your ideas. And that's why I was telling you, even if you're going to write a script in a certain genre, study the other ones that worked. Why did Apocalypse Now work? Why did Full Metal Jacket work? Why did, whatever, any of those scripts. And even in the last 10 years, the ones that have been nominated for Oscars, those scripts are available. You just go online and go.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really neat to see how simple and sparse those things are, and then what comes out. Because sometimes be like, the writer just tells the bag of meat to smile, and it's not really like that. There's really a lot more going on. I read The Rock, and that gave me an idea for how to take one of the stories that I had, the one I mentioned earlier, and how to kind of frame it. Because there are some great stories in that. Ed Harris is awesome.
That's a great script.
Yeah.
The actions are fucking off the chain.
It was,
I was in The Rock.
Were you really?
But I never got shot. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You remember Anthony Clark? He played the hairdresser, the flamboyant. I was in the scene with him.
Oh, yeah?
And we went upstairs to shoot that scene with Sean Connery, and I met all of them. And we started to do the scene, and Anthony started improvising. And the director was like, wait a minute. Like, keep going.
Yeah.
He just kind of let him go, and I ended up being pulled out of the scene. I never even got to, I can't hang with Anthony. Anthony was a fucking beast.
Yeah.
So I ended up going, they ended up sending me downstairs for like 3 or 4 days, and then never shot me.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, it's fine. Anthony was amazing in this.
Yeah.
If I was still wanting to be an actor, I'd probably be upset, but no, I'm not upset.
Well, that movie came out the way it needed to.
Right.
Anyhow.
I got paid.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't get any residuals on it, but I got paid.
Did you see the new Mission Impossible?
Not yet, no.
That movie is incredible.
I hear it's amazing, though.
It's really, really good. And, yes, Tom does all his own stunts. All his other stuff aside, his ability to be that person, that thing.
At his age.
Right. All of the skills. And one of the stuntmen that John and I know was like, you don't want to mess with Tom Cruise. Whatever it is that you think you're good at, he can do better than you can already. And if not, you give him 2 hours and
he'll figure it out.
Yeah, because he's just got that. It's one thing to say, so-and-so doesn't deserve. He deserves to be where he's at. He has put everything into it. And part of, I think, what makes him kooky is what also makes him great at that. Because I can't go get locked in a room for 20 hours and come out like that much better.
Is that what he did in the movie?
But like when he like learned how to sword fight, he went out and just for 3 months, hours and hours and hours every day. I don't have that kind of dedication. You want to think,
but you would if you were getting that type of money. You knew your shirt was going to be off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's all these different. Like I talked to like a couple of my friends are celebrities and their bodies are just ridiculous. They call it camera ready. So you want to have your body camera ready all the time.
Right.
So you might. So that's why you'll see like you and I both love like UFC and fighting and boxing and shit.
Sure.
And you see the guys when they're fighting, their bodies are ridiculous. But when they're off. Like remember Ricky Hatton, he would put on 80 fucking pounds. You know what I mean? And have to lose it all back again because he wasn't camera ready. You know what I mean? He was enjoying, oh shit, I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and just drink at the pub every night instead of I might have to fight in 3 months.
Right.
You feel me? He was like, oh, I'll figure it out. I'll lose it again. But that ended up being bad for him. You know what I mean? Whereas people who are shooting movies know I got 6 movies lined up after this. I have to take my shirt off in all of them. So I got to keep my body right for whatever. So they stay camera ready at all times.
I do think, though, that when you get to the elite level, though, there's things that have separated you from your peers, where you can hold your own. I mean, he holds that movie.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that couldn't take the stunts out. I mean, Ving Rhames isn't working hard anymore, because he's had to slow down for whatever reason. Yeah. Tom Cruise, he's a marvel, what he does.
And let me tell you something cool about Tom. There are a lot of things that happen on the set that a lot of people don't know. They only see what they see on movies. The rumors I've heard about Tom is, number one, he's the nicest guy to work with.
Yeah.
Right? And the most giving.
Yeah.
So what I mean is, for example, say we're on the set. Say we're shooting a scene. Say you're Tom and I'm me. Okay. And we're doing a close-up on me. So that means the camera's facing me and Tom is off screen. I'm looking at him, right? So I'm saying my monologue or whatever it is to Tom. Well, a lot of big stars, this isn't true with every star. A lot of them, though, will bring in like their double or whoever, their stand-in to do their lines for that. Yeah. Like they don't have time for that. But what they fail to realize is they miss the momentum of the fact that you're looking at me a certain way. You're giving me, you may not say shit, but it's about how I'm responding to you. It might be a look that makes me react a certain way or give something back to you, right? Tom is known for being the guy who's standing there.
Yeah.
As big as he is, it could be a tiny little moment that they have on me. He stands in his fucking position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that tells you a lot about him because he knows his name is on the marquee. Everybody should be like that. If he could do it, damn it, everybody can do it.
Yeah, Jay Moore tells a great story, and you've had Jay on your show.
Right, he does the thing where he directs them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a true story.
And so there they are doing the same thing, face-to-face, doing a shot. And Tom is so good at the face-to-face part, he's like, by the way, let me direct you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's incredible that he's that present to be several layers out from what's going on around
and he's just pointing like, get the fuck over there. I can't see you.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Right. No, it's brilliant. And Jay doesn't even like, oh, shit, I see what you're doing now. Right. But he's able to hold it together. It's fantastic.
And you get the same thing from really good writers when, like, a lot of writers will get on a TV show and they'll be offended by the fact that the showrunner or the head writers had to rewrite them. And they might have rewritten a ton. But what you should be smart about doing is going back and looking at the script and going, oh, wow. Now I see how he changed it. I thought my line was funnier, but theirs had more character.
Yeah.
I thought my line was whatever, but I see what it is. The voice of the character was much more the way that they see it. You know what I mean? If you could separate yourself with that, and where I'm going with that is the same way that Tom Cruise can direct you is the same way your showrunner on your show would and should be able to do too. Because they're the ones who wrote the script usually, anyway, so they know those characters. As much as you've been inside of it for months working on it too, you'll never know it the way they do. You know what I mean? And that is something that a lot of younger writers don't understand when they get on a show. They all of a sudden realize, oh shit, they take it personally. Yeah. Like, oh my God, I was rewritten, instead of going, oh, I see why I was rewritten. Now I'm going to really study his voice so the next time I write my script or write this outline, I'm going to fucking nail it. Oh, I see where he's going. And that's what I do. I'll just sit in here in my office and study the outlines the way that they wrote it. I'll look at how they describe something. And I'm like, oh, it's in this tone. Oh, I see what they're doing here. And Even here's another example. I know I'm talking about, I always do. When I submitted my script, I was sent the script to my show, Deadly Class, right? And I went, oh, well, the script that I'm going to submit, I'm going to take it and make it look like their script. So they formatted it a certain way. They bolded their exterior, scene headings. They underlined this.
Sure.
So anytime I came to those things in my script, I made it look like they did it. You know what I mean? I didn't have that initially.
Yeah.
But so when they opened it up, it felt like they were reading their own script.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they know I can do that voice. You see?
Krista Vernoff did that with Shonda Rhimes.
Right.
Learned how to do her thing. And I did the same thing, with intel reports.
Right.
I want to know what the commander needs to see.
Right.
They hate blue. There's not going to be any blue in that report.
Right.
They want the bottom line of bluff, the bottom line up front to be the very top thing on the report. So, you definitely have to learn the voice of the people you're writing for.
And the cool thing is, like you, as an example, and this is the reason why I want you to just keep reading more scripts, is it's not about just reading them for the sake of reading them. It's about reading them and going, oh, I love how such and such guy wrote, whatever script you're reading.
Yeah.
What if in my story I wrote it in that voice? That's okay to do. That's taking homage. And going, the way he described, by page 3, he introduced the character this way. The first time he saw the character, we knew exactly who that character was because he immediately defended that kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we know he's the type of person who puts himself on the line, for whatever. It's a little thing that you do. The more you read them, you go, by page 30, which is my Act 1, he did such and such. So I need to make sure in my script that my hero does this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You start to see those things. You can watch TV and movies all day long, but if you're not reading them, you're not seeing what they did. And that's what I'm telling everybody. People are like, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm like, just fucking read. You'd be amazed how much more power you have. The reason why I always tell people that I feel like, personally, this isn't me being arrogant, why I feel like I'm dangerous, because I have so many scripts in my head that I can pull from that you can't figure me out. You know what I mean? And I can give you so many cool ways of prose or describing something or making an action pop because I've read hundreds and thousands of these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you just can't touch me.
Right.
So you got to make yourself that available, that dangerous yourself, because you're competing against people who know how to do that better than you.
Yeah.
So how do you get better than that is to learn from the best. So just pull from the best. You shouldn't let a week go by you haven't read a script. Not 1 week, because you're competing against people who read 7. You know what I mean? And that's real. And that's what I'm always telling everybody. Whether you're writing a book, if you might be writing a book, you're going against somebody who spends 4, 5, 6 hours a day writing.
Yeah.
And you have 10 minutes. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you get that good? That's that 10,000 hour thing, And last thing I'd say, you were talking about Tom Cruise. He has his 10,000 hours 20 years ago.
Right.
25, 30 years ago.
Yes.
He had his 10,000 hours. So it's easy for him to just steer you where he wants you to go. It's like getting on a motorcycle for him or riding a bike.
Yeah.
It's simple because his muscle has adjusted to that. That's some game for you.